almost like I never leave, almost like I live here or something. And safety glasses before I lose them. I'll forget they're there. Play an adult version of Blue's Clues. Where are my glasses? On my head. Oh, wow. Okay. So, guys, in the very recent past, you may have seen a video where we're doing guards and doing burn-through handles for some Bowie knives forged from farrier's rasp. And I've got 4 of these that are coming together, but I've got 2 that are coming faster than others. We'll get that in editing. That are coming together faster than others. And this is the one that I'm going to be working on first. And what I have over here at my grinder, I have a surface conditioning belt on it. Cheyenne was over here finishing out some of her awesome handle material. And I have this piece of dyed and stabilized Purple Heart. It's Purple Heart that's been made more purple. So, before we get going too far, hit that subscribe button and tell all your friends, hey, check out the channel. Let me grab a belt and we're going to get going. Now, for handle finishing, most of the time we end up using some old loaded belts. And look at that nasty thing right there. So this is a worn 36. And I'm going to be cautious about using this because, one, I don't want to slip and hurt myself. And a lot of people are going to be like, respirator. And I'm going to be like, thank you for your concern. And I appreciate that. But I end up fogging up my glasses. And if I hit this, I get scars like that. So I want to avoid that. So I've already cut a profile into this. What I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be using the wheel to contour. And smooth that out. Really simple. So I'm just going to show you some of the progress where I've got a little bit of a ridge right there, and that's going to start conforming to the hand. Now, you may notice that this is kind of a short handle. That is because there's going to be a poured pewter extension, a butt cap, or rather a pommel added to the bottom of that. Guys, when I talk about trying to get the most out of our belts, this is a good example of that. Tristan Miller, how's it going? So this is that time that this belt is no longer an abrasive belt. I'm going to get rid of it. I'm just going to toss it to the side for now. And grab another belt. Let's start working it down. This once more is a used 36 grit. And it is a zirconium belt that I got from Sean Ryan at Phoenix Abrasive. And the idea is like these little chip marks, I'm going to get those ground out. See how that profile started to change. Now, I'm going to go ahead and scrape the hard corners at the back. Baseball Boy 143, how are you doing? Daniel Rodriguez, appreciate that. So I can either roll into the belt like that, or I can break that edge coming in from the top. Now I think I get a little better transition rolling in, but just different techniques you can use. And as you're doing this, always check, does this fit my hand or the hand of the individual that it's being made for? Now, I don't know who's going to end up with this knife, so I'm going to make sure that my hand's quite comfortable in it, and being that I have a smaller hand, that it will accommodate a larger bear paw. I can see how that cross section has drastically changed, and I gotta say that's fitting my hand really good, but it's a little thick up here on this side where my fingers come around, so I want to go ahead and dip out on the side. And that fits a lot better. It looks kind of cool, but it could be more comfortable. So what I'm going to do, where I've taken that down, I'm just going to radius this and start taking down those sharp edges. Scrape the hard edges. Much better. My fingers a little bit. Okay, so now I have a nice hunting knife handle. Now, is that good for a Bowie knife? I think it'll work for a Bowie knife. What I am going to do now is take this belt off, and I'm going to put a 120 that has been worn and is also split down. So as I said, as we use up our belts for metal, for steel of course, and then we go into the brass and copper, anything we're finishing for bolsters, guards, pommels, different fittings in general, we just kind of progressively work our way towards handles, and handles being softer, you can get away with a couple things, and I'm going to talk to you guys about that in just a moment. But if you would, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. There'll be a lot of knife making videos coming. Jim, how is it going? Hope you're doing well. Okay. So this worn 120 will work for what I'm doing. Now, some of you may or may not have heard of, or you may be familiar with, as far as knife finishing, the basic concept of doubling your grit as you increase your finishing. As you progress in your finishing, you double your grit. So if I were to start with a 40, I use 36, but a 40 grit belt, then my next step should be around somewhere 80 or less. And there are times I'll do a 60. Sometimes I start with a 50 and go to an 80. It just kind of varies. But what I will do is, with the handle material, which is much softer, I can get by, once I've rough shaped that, I can get by going to like a worn 120 and cleaning this up. Tommy Park, well, thank you. Do you only focus on knives and swords? Have you ever worked in the motorcycle field? I'm actually I'm treasurer of the South Central Illinois Law Dogs. Um, I do ride. I don't work on bikes too much. I like riding them more than I do working on them. I worked on them when I was younger, and I got to the point where it was like, well, shit, man, I kind of like to have something that's uh, a little more reliable. So I got into better bikes, and so as far as working on them, I've worked on them at home. I like riding. Um, my BTX is out back. I'm not a Harley guy, and it's not because I can't afford one. It's just because the BTX was a really good deal at the time. It's been quite reliable. But yeah, so I do a little bit motorcycle wise. Most of my videos, most not all, but a good portion of my videos will be on knife making, will be on firearm reviews, forging, testing products like swords and axes, and we're probably going to do a competitive night in here where we just we keep score and do some axe and knife throwing, because we actually have an axe throwing lane just literally on the other side of that wall. Riding over wrenching, yep. It can get nasty, and then the thing is, it's like, man, I worked on the bike but I didn't work on the bike, you know? Sometimes it's nice to kick back and relax. It's like working on firearms versus going and hunting or target shooting. I think it's cool to customize them. I probably got some, I may have some videos on that in the past, but I really like, I like my fun stuff. I like my freedom, and I like to keep it that way. All right, guys, so here we go. Now I'm going to position this where you can see I'm going to top slack this. You don't want to top slack with a knife because that can come back. Now you got to be cautious, but I think I'm going to be cautious with this. So what I'm doing, I'm just working it down, kind of giving it a light polish. And that's feeling pretty nice. It feels good in my hand. I've got a little high point right there. I'm going to take that down. And it doesn't take very long at all to do that, guys. Now, what I'm going to do next, I'm actually going to go to surface conditioner. Okay, so building 1911s, I've never done that. I've had a lot of friends who built Glocks from 80% and or from receiver blanks, and also ARs. I know a lot of people who built ARs, and a few who've done the stamped AKs doing the bending jigs. But I'll tell you what, I would love to build a 1911. When I was a correctional deputy, when I went to take my 40-hour course for county, I wanted a 1911, but I wanted a double stack. I've got small hands, and that would have been maybe not the greatest idea, because I ended up settling on a Beretta 92A1 that was suppressor ready. And being in Illinois, and I'm sorry for you guys to know that being in Illinois, they changed up on what we can have, which is not legal or constitutional, but they did. So I ended up having to take the threads off of my muzzle when once I'd left and I was no longer an officer. But I like the 1911 and I like the Beretta. You've got similar. They're both hammer fired versus striker fired. They're both tried and true military designs, and they've got quite a following. So I do plan on having a couple 1911s somewhere in the near future. Any recommendations for first smaller knife? A daily, okay, you daily carry a basic Kershaw. Would love a custom knife one day. Okay, so we do custom builds, and like this is what I want to recommend. Figure out what your use is. What is your primary use? Are you a fisherman or a hunter? And now I don't do folders. I do fixed blades. So I do smaller fixed blades. In fact, Cheyenne just shipped out some really nice smaller fixed blades that she did with sandbar stag handles. But what I'm going to recommend, if you're looking for something that's more of a piece of jewelry on your belt, very nice leather work, and then go with go with some nice handle material, whether it's natural, synthetic, or enhanced. And if it's jewelry, maybe you go for a pattern welded blade. If you're looking for something for more function, I'm going to recommend to go with a mono steel blade, probably 3-tempered. So full quench, and then do appropriate tempering cycles on it. If you are looking for more aesthetic value than you are for use, that's when you start adding Hamones and so forth. I carry a very basic piece for daily carry, and this is a Honey Badger flipper. It comes out of South Africa. I picked it up at Blade Show back in June, and I recut the bevel once, and she's shaven sharp. I touched up the edge once with the kitchen steel, and then I recut the bevel because I felt it was necessary. And this thing right here, I'm using for meal prep. I'm using it for for meals, for eating my meals. I'm using it for opening boxes. I'm using it for a lot of cool stuff. And very shortly, coming up this next month, squirrel season comes in. I'm gonna be using it for cleaning squirrels, so breaking down game and so forth. Stephen, Daryl, I'm hoping Nathras from South Africa. How's it doing? Robert Downey Jr., how's it going? All right. Yes, and once more, if you haven't subscribed, it's a great time to do so. I've got a blue surface conditioner here that in its good form is probably about a 220 grit, and I'm going to take that. If it stays on, it may jump off the machine. We're going to find out, and I'm going to start finishing this out. Very cool. Stephen, I was just talking about from South Africa. This I've got a Honey Badger flipper I picked up in Atlanta, Georgia. I guess these are made in South Africa, and I'm quite happy with it. So there's some awesome things that come from South Africa. Perhaps you're one of them. I've got some friends from down that way, Niels Vandenberg and with Black Dragon Forge, and he's an ABS Mastersmith, and then Steve Katz, who I believe is now in Florida, but he's originally from South Africa. All right, here we go. So the main thing is that I want to get my grind marks out. And like you may be able to see right in here, there's a couple grind marks. Now, I'm not going to do the entire piece. I'm not going to do complete finish on it because I've still got to pour that bolster. And when I do that, it's definitely going to require some cleanup. So here we go. Now I'm doing this on the serrated contact wheel. And then I'm going to come up here and I'm going to smooth it out doing a top slack grind. And this is going to help even everything out. And there you have it. Yes, I am making a hidden tang. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. See, it has a nice purple, it's got a nice purple coloration, like it's Purple Heart or something. And here is my Farrier's Rasp Bowie knife. I'm going for a primitive build here. I want it to have a nice handle. That looks like a nice handle. Now I've got exposed tang. I can take part of this off and I have all of this irregularity that the pewter is going to flow into, adhere to, and it's going to work well, very well for drawing this piece together. So we're almost there, guys. Why the hell not continue on? I've got steps to this process. Stick with me. We're going to see how it's done. I know how it's done, but I'm going to, I want to show you guys how I do this. And if you got any questions, comments, anything, let me know. Yeah, this handle material, this is some dyed and stabilized Purple Heart that Cheyenne did. Cheyenne Brown, she goes by Brown-Rhodes. She was on season 9, episode 5 of Forged in Fire, Blades Gone Wild. I was on season 4, episode 2 of Forged in Fire. I was also on Master of Arms, season 1, episode 1, Flintlock Axe Pistol. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to come in here and using my handy dandy angle grinder, I'm going to trim this down just a little bit. There we go. Now, I'm going to go ahead and notch this tang. Because what I want to do, I want to give a few extra points for that pewter to grab onto. The pewter has a relatively low melting point in the high 300s and to the mid 400s. And what I will be doing is using that as my backfill and also to create the pommel. And this is an older technique. I mean, at one point it was perfectly acceptable to use an adhesive and essentially not pin or add a mechanical fastener to your handle. And if you're not doing a lot of chopping, that's probably still okay. Yes, you can do the peen over, and I will be doing that when I do when I finish out my one of my reverse falchions here. I do a lot of poured pewter, so that's what I'm going to be doing here. But the first thing I got to do is I have to seal all gaps here and here. So that's going to require a little bit of JB weld. A peened tang construction, provided that you don't overstress it and fracture out the material, is very, very strong. And I'm going to throw that on the floor to test the durability. So I've got some JB Quick Weld because I don't need a lot of time to work on this, and I want it to set up relatively quick because in this case I'm not trying to get the material to flow to every point on this, but rather I want it to act as a gasket and seal it up. So before I do this, I'm going to check. It looks like my gapping is pretty well covered and I should be good to go. So I'm going to use my camera set up in a very crooked manner. Crooked enough it could be an Illinois politician. All right. So I'm going to use, basically equivalent amounts of hardener and resin. And then I will take this, I'm going to mix it up. Mix it up real good. So what I'm using for a lid is a lid, or for a mixing point. The lid I'm using is from like a deli cup, or some people use them for Jello shots, and other people use them for live bait, like mealworms and waxworms. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to fill in my gaps, because liquid does take fluids in general, so we could be talking about gases as well, generally take the path of least resistance. And I am just going to make sure that's filled in so that when the pewter, the molten pewter, makes it to this end, that it doesn't pour out everywhere and is wasted or requires a second attempt. Or if I get in too big of a hurry, more than one attempt. More than two. Who knows? Okay, so now with the mouth, we'll call it the mouth, the opening blade side of the handle, I'm going to take some of this material, some of my adhesive, and it looks like it fit up pretty close, but it is likely that there's still some sort of gapping. So I'm going to take and create my liquid gasket right here. My epoxy gasket, if you will. And that is, some of it gets inside the handle, it's not that big of a deal. But I definitely, I want to try to reduce adhesive spillage. Now I'm going to put that back on there, and I'm going to leave it for a reason. I'm going to try not to use too much, because if I do, it's going to squish out like it did right there. That's okay. That means I got enough. And everything else should be sealed up pretty good. It's looking good. And we're going to give it just a moment. One thing I can do, I can actually apply a little bit of heat, and it will cause that to cure just a little bit faster. Now, I don't think that was really enough heat to do much of anything, but if there was any gapping, it probably did close it. So now I'm going to take some HVAC tape. That's what we call it. This is just an aluminum duct tape, essentially, for duct work. And I'm going to tear that off. Now, it's important to have this, the lowest level of your tape needs to be at the maximum height of your pour. What that means is you don't want this to be too short. So I'm getting this to set securely around the handle material so that I have a good finish. And then I'm going to go around it and just going to push on that so it sticks. Now, I should be pretty good on that. Next, we get into the pewter part. And that's where I just turned the forge on. Got it going back there. Let's see. Very cool. Yeah, actually, I was on. That's when I was on Forged in Fire right there. Season 4, Episode 2, Deerhorn Knives. And I'm from South Africa, Steve Katz, who was on. He might have been on Season 5. No. Maybe he was on Season 6 or 7. I don't remember, but you should check him out if you haven't. I hope the newer Tommy Parker. I hope the newer generation starts getting this kind of stuff. This knowledge is hard to come by. Would you take on an apprentice to teach mentor? I am all about educating. Tommy Park, okay? As far as an apprentice to work in the shop, that is very expensive for me to do. The last apprentice I took on was Josh Nicolaitis, and he's over there in one of the pictures in that blue shirt, and he won season 6, episode 3 of Forged in Fire, Washington's College Mark. As far as educating, I've got a lot of videos here, and I try to offer that up. Tommy, where are you from? If you're reasonably local, perhaps we can look at something. Won't it be hollow inside with that not filling the glue all the way? No, not at all. Because the pewter is going to be molten and it's going to pour. So I'm going to pour this from the top and it'll start filling down here and go to the top. So it will be solid. Thank you, Crazy, for the luck on that. Castell, how's it going? Okay, so I'm going to move this back here while I find... Oh, wait, I got some right here. I have some pewter. Let's put that in the forge. Now, what I do is I take old pewter scrap and I melt it down. I refine it. Excuse me. I refine it and I use it for a lot of my builds. That's going to take a moment to heat up, so let's go look at some of those. So there's Stephen. These handles, they're drilled round. There you go. That one went off to the side really bad. And then I do a burn through to create a rectangular channel similar to the tank. So there's still room that that pewter will flow down to the front, to the guard area. Biggest sword I've made, I think, was 52, 54 inches long. As a current, it could change tomorrow. So I'm going to turn this around, and these are some of my pieces with the poured pewter bolsters and pommels. Some of those are pretty cheap. They're only like $200. The Bowie knives, like there's a big stack Bowie right there for $700. And, you know, that's stuff without sheaths. The Bowies, it usually ends up costing me another $150, $200 to make a sheath. But that's what we do. Also make a lot of tomahawks and axes. Cool stuff like that. Yep. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this and I'm actually going to loosen this a little bit and I'm going to tilt it. And the reason being is because I want this to auto level when it's liquid and it's liquid. We're going to let that sit for a moment. And the reason I'm letting that set is because I need that to cool. It's too hot right now. Very cool. I do have some katanas as well. I picked up several from Cast Siberia while we were down in Atlanta, first part of June. Now, the reason I set this aside is because I can use it to determine how cured that is. And that is cured enough for me to start working. Now, I'm going to take this one that is overheated and I'm going to pour it into the other ladle. And now it's time and I'm just going to pour that over. Now, you can see the agitation. I'm going to get my propane torch ready. And I'm going to let this set. And the reason I'm doing that The reason I'm letting that set is because I need this to cool. Now, there's some junk that came up from the bottom there. And what I've got is I have gas being displaced, but because that was also so hot, it's also producing fumes which are coming up out of the molten material. If I get bubbles in this, then those don't escape and I end up with a nasty mess. So now you can see that's starting to calm down, but then I reheat it and it starts bubbling again. So when you pour too hot, which is what I just did, I poured that too hot, and that happens when I'm doing live videos. That's hot enough to be a catalyst and to cause gas to be produced, let alone what's being released that may have been trapped in that channel in the handle. Now you can see that I'm not bubbling right now. That could be good. And I just want to heat this for a little bit because if there's any voids in this pour, I want those voids to close. So what's going to have to happen right there, if there's gas trapped, I'd say that's gas being produced. But if there's gas trapped, if it doesn't escape, it's going to create a pocket. It's going to create a bubble, essentially. Let's see. Daniel Rigo, how's it going? Are there any legendary metalworkers, smithers that you wish you could ask questions from or work with? There's a lot of them I get to talk to. I get to talk to Robbie Bowman and Ray Kirk and Niels Vandenberg and a lot of those guys. A lot of them are friends of mine. And yes, so like if there's any that I would like to ask questions to that were no longer alive, you know, it would be like Masamune. And he didn't speak English, so, and I don't speak very much Japanese, so chances are the conversation wouldn't go very far. But yeah, I mean, like, there's a lot of Smiths I really admire. You know, I talked to Jason Knight on occasion, or, oh wow, that did drop quite a bit. Jason Knight, Jay Nielsen, David Baker, Ben Abbott. I see these guys on occasion and sometimes message on social media or something like that. But I've got a lot of friends that do bladesmithing and different types of forging. So yeah. Stephen, is 1080 strong steel? 1080 has 0.8 carbon content. It is a shallow hardening steel and is quite forgiving. So I would say that it is a reasonably strong steel. Yes. See, you do it too hot is actually very informative. If you did it perfectly, we wouldn't get a chance to see. That is correct, Christopher. So what I tell people when I'm teaching them, I say it's not about doing it right every time, the first time and every time, but it's about knowing how to fix it if things don't go right. So you guys have seen how much bubbling there was, and that now I'm going to heat this again, and I can see that my level has dropped a fair amount, so there must have been a fair amount of displaced gas or fumes that was produced. And I'm just going to heat this up again a little bit and see if I get any more bubbles. Like I can see that there's some junk kind of floating to the top here, which I don't want that down in my alloy because that will cause an issue. Hi, Dave.
Hi.
And, oh, there's a couple bubbles. They're not real violent bubbles, but they are bubbles. And I don't know if that's trapped gas or if that is being produced. And I kind of wonder if it's not being produced at this point, in part being that it's a dyed and stabilized material, so maybe some of the plastic, the resin in there, is getting hot enough to do that. So I'm just going to come in here and kind of do a low temp and give it the opportunity to escape. Do you ever get bit by the boil splash? Mr. Black, yes sir, absolutely. And that's the reason I'm wearing my hat here. Oh, I probably should have had these on when I was doing that. I'm sorry. Um, but here's the thing. At 400 degrees, it hurts. It's not doing a whole lot of damage. It leaves a red spot. Now, you get it too hot, like I had it, I didn't have it superheated, but I had it overheated when I did this pour, and that was in part because I was talking. I had placed my material into the forge, and I let this heat just as the forge was coming down. That piece I was showing you, and it's clearly that's about the temperature you want it for an easy pour. And I'm saying easy pour because you're not dealing with what I'm dealing with right now if you do it the right way. But this is how I fix it. So applying heat here, my blade is heat treated, it's down here. And you're talking about splash. Well, here's some that bubbled up over the material. And I'll just melt that back in. There's another piece. And the heat, when I do this, actually cures the rest of that JB weld, that epoxy. So I'm hoping I'm good at this point. We're going to find out shortly. I'm going to let this cool, and then I'm going to take the tape off. Now, while it is shiny, don't mess with it. It's liquid. And I want to show you guys the steps of how this sets up. Once more, if you haven't subscribed yet, this is a great time to do so. But you may be able to see this is quite shiny, and you can see the scum, the slag, this stuff that has floated to the top. And that's probably from handle material. That could be adhesive from the tape. It could be several things. Probably a combination of all of those. And as this cools, it's doing it now. It's starting to frost. And I'm tapping. You may be able to see it wiggle just a little bit, and that's from tapping the vise. But as this cools, as it sets up, it'll go solid. And once it goes solid, you have to be very cautious about it. Because when it does, it's very brittle. It breaks like, well, we call it divinity candy. It's a holiday candy, and I'm actually going to heat this just so that it smooths that surface just a little bit more. And I'm going to let that cool again. But as this cools, it will frost. It gets a frost pattern across the top of it. And that's what we're doing now. Hello. How's it going? Guys, be sure to like and subscribe. We'll catch you in a few more videos to come.